He made his start on Batman, crafting gripping stories and co-created the fan favorite Punchline. He took us deep into the woods, a thrilling sci-fi tale of survival and mystery. He shattered reality in the Department of Truth, where conspiracies shaped the world itself. He built the nice house on the lake, a haunting vision of apocalypse and secret. And with Something's Killing the Children, he unleashed Erica Slaughter and a terrifying world of monsters. Today, we'll look at the comics that define his career and check their prices in the marketplace. This is Creator Spotlight, James Tynion IV. This week's Creator Spotlight is going to be focused on James Tynion IV. Shane, what's your knowledge on James Tynion IV?
So it's interesting because I do what I always do with when we do these creator spotlights. I fire up my CLZ and check and see how many books by the person I have. And I have 280 books written by Mr. Tynion IV. And I was surprised at that because I really figured out his name when I started to read Something is Killing the Children, because it was just so good that I was paying attention to who was actually creating it, both art and writing. And that kind of, when I started to see his name after that, I'm like, oh, well, I'm going to read this then.
Yeah, for me, I got to know the name because of Something's Killing the Children. So during the time he was doing his run on Batman, I was not as familiar with him because I was on a little hiatus during that time. And one thing I learned about him was his affinity for horror comics and, slasher comics and stuff like that, and immature reader comics. And he's kind of like past his time in the way of he's the type of writer that would have been around during the Vertigo era, if you remember. Yeah. And thankfully, he's one of those guys that brought him back. So we're going to talk a little bit. And another thing that really stood out about him is that many of the books that he writes, his own stuff, has been optioned. So he's one of those names that, as of today, may not be so well known, but he could potentially be the second coming of, probably the better second coming, to be quite honest, of Neil Gaiman. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So that's a possibility, even though he probably doesn't want that comparison anymore, but it's just the same. It's in the same way where he's becoming this writer that could eventually become a screenplay writer.
Oh, and the Something is Killing the Children universe is totally, for me, like when I read it, you can see like the John Wick, kind of expansion and little tidbits of different houses, and they could do all, like, it's really unlimited. They just, as long as he's involved, I think it'll be awesome.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and do his bio first here. James Tynion IV is a celebrated comic book writer known for his work at DC Comics and beyond. He gained prominence writing Batman, Justice League Dark, and the Batman Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles trilogy. His creator-owned works include Something is Killing the Children, The Department of Truth, The Nice House on the Lake, and The Woods, which has earned widespread acclaim. A 5-time Eisner Award winner, Tynion has also received 10 GLAAD nominations, winning in 2016. Through Tiny Onion Studios, he continues to push boundaries in the industry. You can follow him on Twitter at James IV, and on Instagram for updates is also James IV. Yeah, man, he He just cranks them up. We're not going to go through all his books because he does do a lot of creator-owned books, and I mean a lot of creator-owned books. That's kind of the benefits of writers sometimes, that they could write so much and then just get artists to be part of it. So it's kind of the same thing with him. So let's take a look at his first published work, and that's Batman #8. This came out in 2012 for DC Comics. High sale of this book is at $110 at 9.8, and that was in June of 2023. The last sale of this book was $9 at a very fine, which is also the fair market value for the Raws, while $110 is the fair market values for 9.8. Currently, there's 155 copies in the census, and this is his first published writing work. He was a co-writer, and he was asked by Scott Snyder to co-write the backup feature for the New 52 relaunch of Batman, which begins with the acclaimed Night of Owls story. So he was a co-plotter. He was also a co-writer and a lot of these stories. So as you notice in the cover, it's probably hard to read from the cover here. His name is not in the cover. He was not a shadow writer. He does have a backup story in this book.
Yeah, and I have this one, so that's great.
What's your thoughts on his work on Batman?
So again, it's interesting because when I ran it, I'm looking through and I'm like, wow, I didn't realize he wrote so much Batman. But when I look at the books and quickly go through the covers, it's like the run of Batman that I really enjoyed. Like that's, I think, part of what made the Batman today like so solid is there was some really solid storylines, and he had his hand in those.
Yeah, and I think he was, again, at this time he was co-plotting with Scott Snyder. This was during Snyder's run with Capullo, so Scott Snyder was really involved. But it's nice to have like a backup writer to kind of like jump ideas off each other, and that's pretty much what was happening here, which gave us a better product.
Yeah.
So this run on Batman is, some people consider it the best iconic run of this era that has happened so far, even though Ron V is pretty much doing a pretty good job right now with Batman as well. And who's to say Hush ain't doing something soon? We'll see what happens there. But I like that he was working with Snyder because he worked with Snyder prior, and Snyder got him into the business. And this is where he got his feet wet. But he went deep in later when we get to these other books. Our next book is Talon #0. This book came out in 2012 for DC Comics. I sell this book at $50 at 9.8. That was in March of last year. Fair market value of this book is $3, which is also the last sale. Graded copies is $50 as well. There's 43 copies in the census. This is the first appearance of Talon, which is Calvin Rose, and the story and written by James Tynion IV with Scott Snyder. Again, this is all part of that Night of Owls story. So this is Talon's first book, but it's not the Talon from the original story. This is a new one.
I remember this coming out. I didn't pick this one up, but I mean, when you look at it now, you got Snyder, Tynion, and Gilliam March. I mean, I would buy this book now for sure, just based on the names, because I know the names better now.
Yeah. I'm not that familiar with Talon. I know he had a little run, so they did have a little run of issues. So this was the first, started with 0. The cover is obviously, they were doing covers like this during this time with the 0 covers. I don't know much, so I can't say much about it. All I know is that he co-created the character. So that's all I can say towards that. Let's go to our next book. And that's Batman Eternal #1. This book came out in 2014 for DC Comics. High sale of this book is at $149 at 9.8, and that was in March 2024. Last sale of this book was $10 at a no grade, and the fair market value of the book is $4, while 9.8s are going for $48. There's currently 312 copies of this book in the census. This is James Tynion, that was one of the main writers for Batman Eternals, which was a weekly comic series about Batman intended to delve into the extensive range and characters of Gotham City. So this is more about Gotham City than it is about Batman, even though he's part of the story.
Yeah, I have this whole series, and again, going back to this time, even though I didn't know it, you're reading, Scott Snyder and Tynion on Batman and the backup stories, and it's just creating interest so that when other books are released, it's like, oh, well, I'm going to buy this Batman book too, and not really paying attention to the names on it.
Mm-hmm.
And, it worked. Hey, who would have thought quality will bring people?
It's fairly cheap book. I don't know of anybody who's hunting down Batman Eternal.
Nope.
And it's probably going to stay that way too, because unless there's like a major story that comes from this, I don't see this book, gaining any range of price. You know what I mean? I think what you got is what you got with this one, and sometimes that's a good thing. Sometimes you just want to read a good story. So go check out Batman Eternal if you can. Let's go to our next book, and that is Vertigo Quarterly CMYK Cyan, which is the first one of the set. So there was a cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. This one has a high sale of, believe it or not, $15 for a 9.8, and that was in July of 2023. Last sale was $3. It's a $2 dollar bin book. That 9.8, it was one of two that was sold. Because there is only two, and it's a jumping off point for creators to push the boundaries of short graphic fiction in a new vertical. Unfortunately, it didn't really pan out to anything. James Tynion wrote an 8-page story, Once Upon the End of Time, with artist Martin Morazzo.
Oh, that's awesome. $15 for a 9.8. I mean,
but I want to read it.
Yeah. I've never seen this book anywhere, I don't think.
It doesn't have that look at that cover.
Yeah. You're not wasting wall space on that one.
It actually looks more like the backside of a comic.
Yeah, you're right. It actually does.
Than the front. That's the cover. And again, the other one's magenta, yellow. This was their attempt at doing something different with Vertigo. Because Vertigo, one thing I love about Vertigo is the fact that it's set outside of a DC universe, even though it can be part of the DC universe. That's one thing that people don't know about Vertigo. Vertigo can be within continuity. However, it doesn't have to be within continuity.
Yeah.
Right. So, and it's also it's a bit of a creator own project too. So a lot of the writers get to create their own projects within a DC umbrella, unless the character is owned by DC proper. They usually get to keep the creator rights. I love Vertigo. I think Vertigo is something that's sorely missed, even though they're saying it's back. I don't feel it being back just yet, even though it is kind of back.
Yeah, they tried it with the black label, but you're right. I like the Vertigo imprint as well.
Karen Berger, who's the editor behind it, she was awesome, man. Such a good time. So I would love to see a return to form with Vertigo. I would like to see stories that stretch the boundary. The thing is that Image technically has taken that place now.
Yeah.
For the most part, so the need for Vertigo in itself doesn't truly exist the way it used to, because we do have an outlet already that kind of fulfills that in Vertigo and other indie comics for that matter, not just Image. Boom Studios, IDW, Mad Cave does a pretty good job as well. So this one, if you see it, pick it up. It's a dollar bin book. There's some great stories in it, I'm sure. Okay. The Woods #1 2014 for Boom Studios is a high sale of $120 at 9.8. That was in August of 2023. Last sale of this book was $15 near mint. Fair market value is $12 for near mint, while the graded copies are $100 at 9.8. There's currently 86 copies in the census. This is his first original comic series, and it's a great story about 513 people that vanish from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and find themselves light years away in an ancient primordial wilderness.
This one I'll have to check. I might have bought a trade of this because there was a discount book place near me, and they had a ton of Boom stuff. So I would go through and buy like all of the trades if they had them in order. And this looks familiar, but I've never actually read it or seen it in a comic shop, but I'll look for it now, that's for sure.
Yeah. So The Woods has the notion of being considered the first original comic series by James Tynion. It wasn't really intended to be. There was another one called, I believe, The Seventh Seal or something like that, which was supposed to happen through Mark Waid's company that he did during that time. This one somehow made it to be the first one. There, it is acclaimed. People do enjoy The Woods. People like The Woods. I've never read it. In fact, I haven't read a lot of this stuff, but I do have access to read a lot of them through the Global Comics. In fact, we're going to do something for the replay where we're going to talk a little bit about the books that are going to be in Global Comics that you could read from James Tynion IV. Memetic, #1. This came out in 2014 for Boom Studios. High sale of this book is $285 at a 9.8, and that was September of 2021. Last sale of this book was $16. It also happens to be the fair market value for the raws, while $20 for a 9.6 is the fair market value for the graded. There's currently 46 copies in the census, and this is a 3-issue series about a progression of an infection meme that leads to annihilation of a human race within 72 hours. There's only 7,000 copies in existence, and this book was optioned in 2020 by Point Grey Pictures, Seth Rogen, and Evan Goldberg's production company. So this is one of those option books.
Yeah, but I've never read this one, so that's interesting.
Mm-hmm. So it's a book about an infectious meme. That's what it says.
Yeah, you're reading it right.
Okay, just make sure. I'm just curious. Why hasn't this been filmed yet? You know what I mean?
Who knows? Again, we've talked about it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, hey, we can pick up the option for this. Hey, who's this guy? Oh, he's doing this, and this has been optioned. So they went back and found all his other stuff.
Oh no, we're gonna talk about a lot of option books.
Yeah,
this is one of them. The Woods, I believe, is optioned as well. Let's move on to our next one, and that is Ufology #1. And this came out in 2015 from Boom Studios. Believe it or not, the high sale of this book was $4 at a no grade. And that was in March of 2021. Last sale of this book was $2. Fair market value of this book is $3. And there are no grades. There are no slabs of this book at all.
Wow.
Right? It is a 6-issue series by James Tynion IV alongside Noah J. Yunkel and Matt Fox. Delivers a Midwest set alien mystery where high school schooler Becky Finch, marked by an alien encounter, must unravel a town's hidden past with the help of her classmate Malcolm. The story draws inspiration from science fiction classics like E.T. and The X-Files, blending the coming-of-age themes with extraterrestrial intrigue.
This one I had never heard of either. So
neither has anybody else because there's nothing in the census.
Yeah, $2. I might be able to pick this one up on Wednesday.
Mm-hmm. That's if it's there. I'm not even sure it has a high print count, but I saw it, and the reason why I picked it is because James Tynion has this very diverse writing style, and what I mean by diverse is that he does horror, he does science fiction, he does superheroes, and they all seem to be like within the same realm of each other. It's kind of like Mark Miller does the same thing in his storytelling, right? Where they're all part of that same continuity, but they're all in different corners of genres, which is really cool. And I think that's what he does here, even though, I'm not saying that all his stories are within the same continuity, but they feel like they are, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So this is definitely a book worth checking out. Ufology. I like the title too. So go check that one out. And let's move to our next book, and that is Constantine, the Hellblazer #1. This one came out in 2015 for DC Comics. The high sale of this book's at $15 at a no grade, and that was in August of 2023. Last sale of this book is $3. Fair market value is $3. There's been no CGC sales, but there are 11 in the census. This is DC's occult detective John Constantine delves into a particular harrowing case, his own troubled past. James Tynion IV writes the character's dark adventures, exploring the depths of Constantine's history.
Constantine.
Or Constantine, whichever way you want to put it, right?
One of those weird ones for me. Like, I don't think I intentionally own any Constantine solo books at all. But, you know, I love the Keanu Reeves movie. I know people freak out about that, but I did like it.
I think most people like it. Like, we accepted it because it's Keanu Reeves, maybe. I don't know. If it probably was someone else, we probably wouldn't have accepted it. But it's a fun movie.
Yeah, and I'm glad they're making a second one. I never did watch the TV show, but I heard that character did a really good job.
Yeah, the actor did a good job.
But I'm more familiar with them in animation. So in all the DC animated movies, I think his character is great in those. I really enjoy it.
Yeah.
Like the Justice League Dark stuff is really good.
And this is one of those books that doesn't get much love, but it's probably worth checking out and reading just to see how it is and how he handles the character of James, of Constantine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Batman Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #1. This came out in 2016 for DC Comics and IDW Publishing. High sale of this book's at $149 and 9.8, and that was in March of 2014. Last sale of this book was $10 at a no grade. The raws are going for $4, while 9.8s are going for now $48, and there's currently 429 copies in the census. It's Batman and the Turtles, man.
I still hadn't reached any kind of turtle appreciation yet. I remember seeing this book and just being like, why?
Well, it's also James H. Williams on the Turtles, which I always love, and he's doing a really cool Batman as well. They turned this into the animated movie. I think the animated movie is not as good, but you got this really cool scene of Batman fighting Shredder.
Yeah, I do remember that.
And that by itself is worth it. But it just goes to show you how, again, I'm going to use the term again, how versatile James Tynion's writing is, that he could go ahead and do Constantine or do some horror story, and then around the corner, he's doing Batman and the Turtles.
Yeah.
Two very different genres. So, cool book. Let's go with our next one. The Backstagers #1. This came out in 2016 from Boom Studios. High sale of this book is $4 at a no grade, and that was in February of 2023. Last sale of this book was $3, and that was actually a little while ago, back in October. And it's $4 near mint. No graded copies sold. 41 copies in the census. This is an 8-issue series by James Tynion with Ryan Tsai that tells an incredible yet earnest story about finding a place to fit in when you're kind of an outcast.
And I've not heard of this one either, but I would, it sounds interesting for sure. And for $3.
Yeah. It's a coming of age story. That's all it is. It's a coming of age story. It's about these kids that are, there's a variant that's supposed to be like Hamilton. It's supposed to be like a playbill for Hamilton. So they're acting. It's kind of like a school play story. Again, going back to that versatility I mentioned, this is intended for young adults to read or teenagers. It's a teenager driven story, which I think we need more of, to be honest.
Yeah, for sure. I agree.
Yeah, so great story. Next one is Justice League Dark. This came out in 2018, and for DC Comics, 2018. Why am I saying this came out in 2018 for DC Comics? The high sale of this book is $80 and 9.6. That was in January of 2023. Last sale of this book was $8 at a very fine. And Raws are going for $4. Graded copies are $26 for 9/8. So someone overpaid for it. There's 29 copies in the census. This is the first cameo appearance of the Upside Down Man and the first team appearance of the new Justice League Dark, Wonder Woman, Zatanna, Detective Chimp, Swamp Thing, and Man-Bat. This is a very strange set of people put together.
Yeah. And this one I didn't pick up when it came out, but I did again. I kind of got exposed to Justice League Dark through the animation, which I really really enjoyed.
Mm-hmm. I figured that this version of the Justice League Dark didn't gain, traction the way the previous version was, the original one, because you're missing core characters that should be in the team, right? So if Justice League is supposed to be the top superheroes of the DC universe, Justice League Dark should be the top supernatural characters of the DC universe. So Swamp Thing, of course. John Constantine, what's her name? Madame Xanadu, right? Is it Madame Xanadu? Madame Xanadu, Zatanna, definitely Zatanna. Those characters, Dr. Fate, they should be the ones that are part of this group. Man-Bat? Yeah, Demon Entrigan, right? Man-Bat? Is Man-Bat a hero now? It's like, I don't know how I feel about it. And then, Wonder Woman's part of it. Does she need to be in another Justice League team, man? Put it back in the real, I'm just saying. And I think that's probably why it wasn't as successful.
Yeah, I agree.
Even though I don't know what's going on with that Swamp Thing. Look at that Swamp Thing. He looks sexy.
He's growing some hair.
You know what I'm saying? Look at him grow. All right, let's take a look at our next book. And that's the big one. Something's Killing the Children, #1. This book came out in 2019 for Boom Studios. High sale of this book is $1,500 at a 9.8, and that was in May of 2021. The last sale of this book was $643 and 9.8. That was in March of this year. Raws are going for $382 near mint, while graded copies are averaging about $640. There's currently 3,852 copies in the census. It's the first appearance of Erica Slaughter, James, and Orskuda Type. There are currently 33 copies that we know of. 33,000 copies that we know of. And Something's Killing the Children is in development for a TV series. Last we heard, the writers have been hired to adapt for Netflix. When do you think we're actually going to see this as a TV series?
I don't know, but if I was in charge at Netflix, I would just get him to adapt it. I don't understand this tendency to hire writers to write something that's already written. I just don't get, like, bring in if he can't do screenplays, okay, bring somebody in to say, hey, because everything is storyboarded. It's already there. It's in the comic.
Yeah, you have everything already set, right?
Everything is exactly what you need. Like, I don't, drives me nuts, Izzy, like, really. The comic is a storyboard already. Like, for Pete's sake, people.
There you have it. Shane finally gets angry.
I could go on for a long time about it. Like, but let's not miss the fact that this is a really great story. And I remember I missed the boat on the first issues, and I had to jump in later issues. I think in the second arc, like issue 12, I think I started. There's a switch there. And immediately I was like, this is good. Like, I'm going to be buying these books from now on. And I mentioned it in the chat, but if you're looking to fill these in, and you can get the trades, obviously there's tons of trades, but look for those deluxe versions. So it's issues 1 to 15 all in one version, and it's oversized. It's a really good version, and they're not that much.
Yeah, and if you just want to read the story, go pick up the digital copy. They're available in
Yep.
digital, and it's another thing is a lot of these books are in libraries.
Yep.
So we'll definitely talk about his a book that he has that's currently a library. Believe it or not, it's a library book. Um, Erica Slaughter is such a badass character.
Yeah.
She is so good. I remember when I had a chance to read it, because I didn't know what the fuss was all about. Because again, when I got back into comics, there was already, already people were already talking about something's killing children already. And it was like 16 issues in or something like that. And everybody's talking about this story. Like, to me, it was like just another horror story because that's what it sounds like to me, but it's not.
Yeah.
There, you said it best. It's kind of like a James Wick style storytelling, where there's this. It's a universe that's being created that James Tynion created within this, which is the House of Slaughters. The Cutter, Erica, and everything that goes along with it. And as I'm reading this story, the first arc, I read the whole first arc, and I read the second arc. As I'm reading it, I'm just like drawn into it because the title is just what it is, right? That's just the title. And it's hard to talk about this title. It's like something's killing the children, forget about it. You know what I mean? And I think that's part of Netflix's issue right now. What do you actually should you call the show Something's Killing the
They
Children?
have to. They
I
absolutely
don't
have
think they're
to.
gonna. They might just call it House of Slaughter or something.
Oh, I hope not.
Because you know how the censors are gonna go crazy with a title like that.
No, that's the whole point of the book, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. Like in a horror story, yeah, of course, but to put it as your title,
Yeah. And the other thing I really like about these books, and I'm sure we'll get to talk about it more, but when you read the first issue, there's not a whole lot of exposition that's done. Like everything is done in dialogue, which is a really cool way that he writes this series. And then later on, you got the Book of Slaughter and the Book of Butcher, and they have like they're a volume of like text that kind of gives you a backstory. It's really well done, really well written.
yeah, it's a great story. I recommend everybody reads it, and I love the art style. Werther Delara, how do you say it? De La Rota?
Yeah,
He's such a great artist.
yeah.
So good,
This is
fits so good.
when I give this book to anybody that is new to comics, I give them that expanded volume 1 to 15, and they
Mhm.
bring it back like in a couple of days, and they go, "I want more."
Good stuff. There you have it. Something's Killing the Children, #1. Our next book is Batman 89. So we're going back to Batman 2020 DC Comics. High sale. This book is $305 and 9.8. That was in August of 2021. Last sale was $30 near mint. The raws are going for about $23 fair market, while $82 at 9.8. There's currently 3,176 copies in the census. This is the first cameo appearance of Punchline. Oh, great. Punchline. Let's talk a little bit about Punchline. We're going to get to our first appearance soon. But was it a smart move to create this character?
I think originally, yeah, I think she's a really cool character. He kind of took the whole Harley idea and morphed it a little bit and made some changes that she still stands out. And we had talked before. I just think that it's just kind of they didn't do enough with it. They something happened near the end, and
Kind of like it was going this way and it kind of like fell.
yeah,
Right. Well, with Punchline, she almost feels one dimensional. Almost. I didn't say she isn't. I think everything you wanted Harley Quinn to be the opposite of, right, is what Punchline is supposed to be. So she becomes the new sidekick for Joker. But the reality of it is she's not really a sidekick. She's more like an equal to him, right? Because she's just as bad,
yeah,
right? So you have this character who should be Harley Quinn's villain. And I think that's where they screwed up. They didn't do that Harley here, Punchline here. They did have it
yeah,
when they started it, but then it kind of like went that way.
Yeah, I agree. And whether it was different writers, you know, putting their 2 cents on it, or maybe there just wasn't enough establishing, uh, stories with her. I don't know, but yeah. And where is she now? Like, who knows?
Yeah, but let's take a look at her first appearance, which is Year of the Villain, Hell Arisen, #3. That was in 2020 for DC Comics. $450 is a 9.8 is the high sale. That was in May of 2021. The last sale of this book was $100 at a 9.8. Fair market value for the raws are $41, while for the greatest is $100. There's 4,518 copies, and this is the first full appearance of Punchline. Okay, now as we continue talking about Punchline, this book has a lot of potential. As I said, Punchline should be Harley Quinn's #1 villain. She should be.
Yeah.
Why she isn't, I don't know. Maybe DC lost interest in the character or something. If she does become Harley's #1 villain, then we could potentially see her first appearance go up in value. This is a spec book. This will always be a spec book.
Yeah.
Because Punchline is a character that has the potential of being in an animated series, in a live action series. She looks great.
Yep.
They did a great job in her, in her costume design and how she looks. She does have potential. And with a name like Punchline, I think it's a good name too.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I honestly think $41 is a good price today for a book that could potentially go up in value.
Yep. And I don't own this one. I own the Batman one, but I missed this one. So
Yeah.
I'd probably pick it up.
Yeah. I'll see if I can track it down during the weekend. You know what I mean? I'll start combing around and seeing what's out there. Because I think there's a possibility with her.
Yep, I agree. It's a good character. It just hasn't been used correctly yet.
Yeah, exactly. Moving on to Wynd #1. This book came out in 2020 from Boom Studios. High sale of this book's at $161 at a 9.8. That was in August of 2021. Last sale of this book was $3. Fair market value of this book is $4 near mint, while graded copies are going for $39. There's currently 509 copies in the census. And in a world where those with magical heritage are threatened with death, a young boy must keep his abilities a secret until he is forced to embrace the gift. Also, James Tynion vaguely teased meetings he's having about this property, implying a potential movie or TV deal. So this is another one. Wynd is another one of those books that he's written that has option news attached to it.
Yeah, and I missed this one as well. But again, exactly what you were saying. This is another one that, it's diverse story. It's not like his usual stuff. Now he's in the magic realm, right? So it's cool that he can do that. And I'm sure that you can pick all these up in a trade or read them online, like you were saying, digitally. So
yeah, with Wynd, it has that there is a following with Wynd. And I do believe that out of all the stories that we've talked about that have options, obviously Something's Killing is a little different, but Wynd is another one that I think we could see in a live action form. So if you pick up this book for $3, $4, $10, you get a 9.8 for $39. Hold on to it. I think this is another one of those sleepers.
Yeah.
And it's great to read a good story. So, if you want to read it digitally, go check it out digitally. It is available on a digital platform. Let's take a look at our next book. This is the third of the books that we talked about that has option potential. Department of Truth #1. This book came out in 2020 for Image Comics. High sale of this book is $228, 9.8. That was in May 2021. Last sale of this book is $20 near mint. It's going for $15 now raw, and 9.8 are going for $50. There's currently 4,125 copies in the census. So let me read the synopsis. After a man discovers that every conspiracy theory that he's ever heard studied was true, he sets out to infiltrate the organization that has been keeping them covered up, the Department of Truth. A high-dollar bidding war has ended for this ultra-relevant conspiracy theory series that is attracting A-level talent for a movie. The Hollywood Reporter confirms our report that Department of Truth has been optioned, secured by Elizabeth Murdoch in a competitive bidding war. Conspiracy theories, people love them. They love them.
Oh, yeah.
And Department of Truth is all about that. This book was really hot at one time. Now it's kind of cooled off. It should be hot again someday.
Yeah, and this is another one that I remember seeing it coming out, but I kind of missed the hype on it and just like, okay, well, whatever. So I've never actually read an issue of it.
Really simple read. Like, really simple. The Lady in Red, that's a character that I'm dying to see in the live action. You know what I mean? And I would love to see someone play that character. I don't know who's the right choice for it. My brain keeps going to this girl who played Catwoman in the Batman, in Nolan's
Halle Berry?
Batman. No. Anne Hathaway.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I somehow see her in the role. I don't know why, but man. Oh, not that Catwoman. Ooh, you say Halle Berry. Ooh, no. She's like 60 now. She probably can't play that role. All right, here's my question for you. Which one will we see first? Something's Killing the Children or Department of Truth?
I think probably this one. And then if it does well, you'll see all those other things that are options start to roll.
I agree. I think this one will come out first. I think, but this should be a TV series. There's talks that it's a potential movie. This serves so much better as a TV series. You know what I mean? Because of the conspiracies. It's like the X-Files in that way. So
yeah, and I think there's a new issue coming out. I don't remember which number it is, but maybe I'll have to try to track these down.
Yeah, it's definitely worth tracking down. They're not expensive unless you're getting the variants. The variants are very costly, but the actual cover A's are pretty inexpensive. You know, unlike Something's Killing the Children. It's easier to grab these than it is to grab those. Right? I see you. You say children. Okay. Let's go to our next book. The Nice House on the Lake. Number 1. This is 2021 for DC Black Label, which is now actually Vertigo. It's the first appearance of Nora Jacobs. The overriding anxieties of the 21st century gets a terrifying new face, and it might just be the face of the person you once trusted the most. This book has a high sale of $193 and a 9.9. That was in April 2022. Last sale of this book was $8 near mint. Fair market value for the raws are $7, while graded are $25 and 9.8. There's currently 3,787 copies. Have you read Nice House on the Lake?
I have not.
My wife read it, and she said, man, it's something. And now we have the nice boat on the lake as well.
Yeah.
He just has this flair of writing horror, and this is technically a Vertigo book. It's under the DC Black Label when it first came out, but it's now under the Vertigo. What's your thoughts on Nice House on the Lake? I do believe I have a copy of it myself, but I don't have the series. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, I'll have to look into it for sure. So there's definitely like another trip on Wednesday required.
Tell me what you guys think about Nice House on the Lake. I really want to know. But let's move to the next one. And that is Enter the House of Slaughter #1. This is the free comic book day edition that came out in 2021 for Boom Studios. And high sale of this book is $60 at 9.8, and that was in August of 2021. Last sale of this book was $3 near mint. That's also the fair market value. Graded copies are going for about $21 at 9.8. There's currently 832 copies, and this is the introduction of the House of Slaughter. And this is really the book that kind of like spread out the continuity of the Slaughterverse, or whatever we call it, or whatever we're gonna call it. Tell me what your thoughts on House of Slaughter.
I really liked the first issues. I did decide, because I know it ended. I think 30 was the last issue.
Yeah, it just finished.
They did like the Book of Slaughter and the Book of Butcher, which those one shots, which I thought were really good. And I like the characters in this. It just went a little sideways near the end. There was a dip. And I know that Chris has been reading it and said the last few issues were really good. So I'll probably go back and pick them up. I'm only missing a couple of them.
Okay, cool. And this is a free comic book day. As you can see, it was $3. It's easily obtainable. Let's go with House of Slaughter #1, and that was in 2021 from Boom Studios. High sale is $69 and 9.8. That was in October of 2021. Last sale was also $3, and that's also the fair market value of the book. However, 9.8s are gunning for $22, which is really cheap. It costs more to get it graded than to just buy a grade. I don't know. There's 808 copies in the census. This is the first appearance of Jace Boucher, and this is the spin-off series exploring the inner workings and the secret history of the Order of St. George. So this is actually, if I recall, this is more of a prequel to Something's Killing. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, I think so. The certain parts of it. And what's really interesting about kind of Something is Killing the Children versus House of Slaughter is obviously you can tell that you can pick up these books very inexpensively. But I will say that if they actually made Something is Killing the Children, we know they're going to have hints of the expanded universe. And these books at that point will not be cheap anymore.
Yeah. But there's plenty of variants for a lot of these books. That's another thing to keep in mind. They're like 1 in 100 variants, or there's special incentive variants, and there's special retailer exclusives of these books. I think the cover A's, the original ones, are the ones that are not getting as much love as they probably should.
Yeah,
because the exclusives are kind of like overshadowing them. But like you said, if Something's Killing the Children becomes a financial success, then we're definitely going to see House of Slaughter. And like I said, it is more likely that they will call the show House of Slaughter than they would call it Something's Killing the Children. They might go ahead and call it Erica Slaughter. Who knows? I will go as far as doing that as well, because I could just see the senses losing their marbles with a title like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay. Image 30th Anniversary Anthology #8. This book came out in 2022 from Image Comics, of course. High sale of this book was $460 at a 9.9, and that was in April of 2023. $15 for near mint copies was the last recorded sale, and it's $11 at fair market value. $50 for 9.8. There's 388 copies in the census. This features the first appearance of Gabriel Winter, the World Tree. So we're having a preview. This book was a preview. I remember this book being a spec book when it first came out. People were hunting it down. That's why the prices are fluctuated with the way it is. But have you ever had a chance to really get a look at World Tree? And we'll talk about World Tree in a second.
Yeah, I have the first issue, and I've read most of them. I did stop getting it, but it wasn't because I didn't like it. It was just a money thing more than anything. And I believe I have this book because I know I have one or two of them, because there was additional stories for the Pro in one of them, and that's why I bought it.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure
Image is an anthology series, and it introduces other books that are coming out, with World Tree being one of them. And there it is, World Tree #1. This book came out in 2023 from Image Comics. The high sale of this book is $141.09.8, and that was in June of 2023. Last sale of the book was $4. Fair market value of this book is $5. 9.8 was going for $18. Would you believe that? And it is 366 copies in the census. This book is set in 1999, where a group of friends begin to explore the Undernet, a secret architecture beneath the internet, but they lost control and unleash unimaginable horrors. There is a recall edition of the book, which the cover was too dark, and that was the Air edition, which is really not that expensive. That's out there. I have a copy of it. World Tree. Now it's still a horror series, but he's now delving into the internet.
Yep.
And the black web, or the dark web, as we'll call it.
Yeah. And like one of the other earlier series that talked about the meme that, caused the apocalypse or whatever, this is kind of a similar take where he's just kind of refining it, I think. And this is a good one. And I mentioned it before we started, but, watch out for, there's a one per store variant, a Momoko cover that does have some value. And it's a cool looking cover too.
Yeah, it's a cool character, and that character that they created, she's scary.
Yeah, for sure.
Finally, we're gonna wrap things up with the Worlds of James Tynion IV. This is a free comic book day 2024. However, this is a promotional comic book. This is a promotional comic distributed in the American Library Association. So it's not exactly the one that is the free comic book day. This book came out in 2024 from Boom Studios. High sale of this book is $267 near mint. That is the price overall. There are no CGC sales. However, there are 41 in existence. This features a curated lineup of some of the most terrifying and thought-provoking stories, alongside exciting teases of what's to come and an exclusive collectible cover. This is one issue that fans will not want to miss. So if you're a fan of James Tynion IV, this is one of those books that you want to have, because it kind of features a lot of his stories put together. And that's what this book is about. And this was the exclusive American Library Association. So he wants his books in the libraries, and he's willing to donate books for the library, which is pretty cool.
So I might be able to go to the library, find this book, and just keep it, and then pay them the
fine. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, not that I would encourage that, but I wonder if it's in libraries up here in Canada. I'll have to go check.
Who knows? It could be. I don't even know if there are libraries up here, man, to be completely honest. But you could pick up his books in libraries. I know that much. So there you have it, guys. That is our creator spotlight, James Tynion IV. Tell me your thoughts on his stories. Do you like his stories? Do you think he's one of the prominent writers of this era? Does he have potential to be a big-time writer like a Neil Gaiman or an Alan Moore or Grant Morrison? I think he's on his way there. May not be there just yet, but he's on his way. And go check him out. Go check out this video. Make sure you hit that thumbs up for the video. Make sure you leave a comment. Let me know what your thoughts on it. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more comic content. Check out these other videos for even more insight, and I'll see you at the next one. Excelsior.